Jedis and warriors and whatnot, I am going to go ahead and make my first red lightsaber. And I've already made one, as you probably know if you've watched my previous videos. The first one, it was a blue one. As you can see, it came out pretty well. This was really a training attempt. I really wanted the red one to be a better, higher quality one, so I will be attempting that now. Lessons learned from this. Quite a few, actually. So first off, just to recap, this is polycarbonate tubing that I have sanded and frosted to give it a nice even lighting. There's a 50/50 LED strip going through here, and there are 8 AA batteries that are powering this to give it 12 volts. And this hilt is a piece of brass tubing that I found in the plumbing section. There's actually 2 pieces of brass tubing here, and I've actually filed this down a little bit so that brass finish can come through, and this is chrome plated. Now, there were some problems with this lightsaber. Nothing insurmountable. It's still a great lightsaber, but because this is brass tubing, it's a little heavier than I would have liked. I would have gone for aluminum tubing, but I couldn't find any around town, and I wanted it right away. So I went with brass tubing. Second, this bolt here is here to hold the polycarbonate tubing in place. So there's a hole. I drilled a hole. This is holding it secure, and it protrudes a little bit too much. In fact, sometimes this nut will come off. Maybe I should have gone with a nylock nut, but I had to file this down as well as I could, yet my hand still gets a little bit of abrasion from using it here. And as you can see, I don't know, if you get closer, depending on how light or dark it is in here, there are discolorations in here. With the naked eye you can really see them, but mainly I care about this looking good on camera. But in the future, when I build other lightsabers, I'll probably really work on making this a more evenly lit thing. But this comes from how I've sanded it and how I've painted it. It was my first attempt, so not bad. But now, for the red one, same concept. Alright, so obviously first off is the LED strip. Now I've already wired this. So I will be showing the wiring process in a separate clip next, but this right here is 2 50/50 LED strips that are only about under 30 inches. They had sticky tape and abrasion, so I just combined them together, one on one side and one on the other, and then I wrapped it in cellophane wrap to give it a little bit of cushioning and a little bit uniformity. Alright, so we turn this on. This is what it's going to look like when it goes into my polycarbonate tubing, which is right here. Same concept as before. A little bit frosting and sanding. This is going to go in here and it's going to light it up and probably, hopefully, come out really well. Now, rather than going with 8 AA batteries like so, like my old one, I decided, since I'll be using a smaller diameter hilt slightly, that I needed to go with some smaller batteries. 9 volts is powering this just fine. One 9-volt battery will run out pretty quick. 2 9-volt batteries in parallel rather than series, because series would give me 18 volts, but in parallel I just get 9 volts with more amp hours or usage. Then that lights this up just fine, and these will fit in the hilt like so, like this, and they'll go in the hilt, which I will get into in a minute. But for now, you're going to see me wire this thing up in the next clip, and believe me, I'm not the greatest at wiring. It's kind of a messy job, but I do have the toggle switch, and oh, this toggle switch is going to go on the bottom. This is going to go on the bottom of the hilt. This cap right here is actually a piece of PVC piping cap. That's all this is. And this was spray painted black, and I drilled a hole there. So that's going to go on the bottom of the hilt. I always put my switches on the bottom of the hilt so that it doesn't interfere with me working with it. So without further ado, let's get to the wiring and soldering process. Please don't laugh at me, I'm not that great at it. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't believe in destiny, I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy, you gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me, you ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know, better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes, call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive even though I ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love. Still gonna die for what I love. Still gonna try, I won't give up. Still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left. And I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret. Cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no. Some injuries, mentally and physically. Studied them religiously so I don't repeat history. And people won't admit to me they don't want a victory. Bad enough to get a C, they'd rather just go leave it be. I know this journey I've been on since 13. Working hard and learning, never stopping searching. Yeah, it's burning, all this passion hurts me. I took action working, writing down these words. No, I'm not okay, I just wanna be something. I don't wanna be nothing, living all alone. No, I'm not alright, I'm just barely getting by. But I'll tell you I'm just fine, so you leave me alone. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left. And I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret. Cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in. I will not let them win, I won't stop till the end, no.
Okay, now at this juncture, we have to talk about the hilt. We must. So as I said, I wanted to make something lighter, slightly less diameter. I was planning on getting some aluminum tubing, and no, I could probably order it online, but I was looking for it around town, can't find it around town. However, we have kind of a unique thing here. There's a windsurfing shop out on this island. And I went out there hoping to find a piece of aluminum boom from windsurfing rigs, or even an old piece of aluminum mast, which I don't think they even make anymore, but I was hoping to find something like that used. Well, they didn't have any such thing. They only had new things, which cost hundreds of dollars. But the man said, well, what about carbon? I'm like, well, carbon, yeah, well, carbon's pretty light, yeah, carbon's, it's durable, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, carbon's pretty durable. So he took me to a little corner and showed me a piece of a carbon windsurfing mast, and this is a piece of it right here that I cut up, and this is the very base of it, 100% carbon. You gotta realize, 100% carbon, anything is really expensive. But it was broken. Apparently it had a leak in it somewhere. I couldn't figure out where. It was only half of a mast anyway. So he said, you can have it. Make a windsurfing hilt, a lightsaber hilt out of it. So, what I've come up with, where did I put the... Okay, yes, here we are. Alright, so this is what I've come up with so far, right? Get a little closer here so you can see. I kind of think this is not done yet, right? So this has been cut. This is another piece of it, which I cut and just inserted into here, since the whole thing sort of tapers to a smaller diameter towards the end. These are a bunch of O-rings right here. O-rings are your friend in any of lightsabers. In fact, to get the blade, the polycarbonate tubing in here, I have made liberal use of O-rings to get a nice snug fit. Otherwise, I don't know how else I could have done it. And I've painted this section, which I cut at an angle. I painted it with some brass coloring, And this is not done yet. Keep in mind, I'm probably going to put some more aesthetics in here. I got this stuff called washi tape. In fact, I've tested some of it at the end, and I think it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty convincing as far as the metallic material. So I'll probably put some of that on there somewhere, somehow. I don't know whether I want to wrap this in leather or keep it kind of like this, because I kind of think this looks cool. I'll probably keep a lot of this carbon material exposed because I think it does look kind of cool. So all that's left is now to secure this in here with a bolt. And I only have enough length to about this point in the blade in my LED strip. So my LED strip is going to be lit all the way up to this point, which is under 30 inches. It should be long enough, just like my old lightsaber. Now, there is one slight problem, and that is that, as you can see, this piece of polycarbonate tubing is coming pretty close to the end, which is not going to give me any space for my batteries. So what I'm going to do then is cut this down a bit. I probably could cut a good 5 inches off. And then all I have to do is run my LED strip into the polycarbonate tubing, and then secure it with a bolt, and then I will have something functional at that point. And then I'll just finish with the aesthetics. So without further ado, let's begin again. Okay, folks, I have something somewhat functional, right? So, ooh, that looks good on camera. Now, what have I got left to do? Well, I'm going to add a few aesthetics. As you saw, it took me forever to hack through that silly bolt right there. But I'm going to cover that up with something. Like I said, I'll probably leave some of this exposed. But I have got all this leather right here to work with. I don't think I gotta put some leather on it. In my opinion, every lightsaber should have a little bit of leather. As you can see, just to make this a little more aesthetic, I added a few more O-rings towards this part right here. Now, this is a functional, but it is a little bit floppy. The blade is a little bit floppy in the hilt here, so I'm probably gonna stuff down some more O-rings starting from up here, and then all that is left is to put one of these acrylic domes. Oops, I turned it on. Is put one of these acrylic domes on here like this one right here, and then I'll be done. Now, this means epoxy. I will have to get out my epoxy to get this leather on here, and I'm just going to kind of play with it and see how I can make this work, okay? So, without further ado, here we go. Okay, folks, so I'm going to call this complete. It is functional. I've wrapped this up and epoxied it. This is very easy to hold. I've tested it swing outside, and I gotta say, it is about half as light as old Wave here, and I mean half as heavy. So I even tried doing a little Jarkai dual welding. I can kind of do it, but man, this thing really weighs me down. I'm really looking forward to making 2 short lightsabers so I can do some really badass Jarkai dual welding that is based on Filipino martial arts. But I am very happy with this. I'm going to put a few more strips of washi tape on here, and then very shortly, next clip, you're going to see a demonstration of this thing in action.